Hi, so we're going to take a quick look at the OET writing criteria. To start with, let's take a look at the exam. Simply put, the exam is about the 45 minutes you're given to finish the writing task. Those 45 minutes are divided into 5 minutes that you're given for reading. You have the case notes, which give you a brief idea about the patient. They sometimes give you extra details, so many details that you might think, well, why should I include all of that? And the answer is you shouldn't. During the 5 minutes, you're going to take a look at the task and the case notes, and you're going to find out who you're writing the letter to, um, and what kind of letter it is. And that's going to give you an idea about what you need to include in the letter, the key information, and what you need to omit from the letter. So those are the extra information, the extra pieces of information that shouldn't be mentioned because they might be irrelevant to the case. They might be, things that don't concern the specialist or the person that's receiving the letter. So during the 5 minutes, you're going to take a look at the case notes, the task, and decide what you're going to do. Then you have 40 minutes for writing. You have a blank piece of paper. You get 40 minutes to decide what you're going to write and start writing. And then we're going to take what you've written and we're going to evaluate that. Now, the person evaluating your writing doesn't do that based on personal preference. He does that according to a set of criteria, which we're now going to talk about. So what are the OET writing evaluation criteria? Well, first of all, let's see what the criteria are. Then let's talk about each one of them briefly. So the criteria, the writing criteria are first of all, purpose, content, conciseness and clarity, genre and style, organization and layout, and finally, language. Now, briefly, each one of these um, are designed to make the letter as clear as possible, as easy to understand as possible. So each one of these is designed to make part of the letter clear. For example, the purpose. When you say purpose, the perfect score in this part would be a purpose that is immediately clear and that is expanded appropriately. So what that means is when the recipient looks at the letter, just takes a quick look at the letter, the purpose must be immediately apparent. So that means you shouldn't really write it in the middle of the letter or the end of the letter. It has to be at the beginning, and it has to be well stated. It has to mention the details that he needs to know. Then you've got the content. So in the content part, you need to make sure that you've included all the information that needs to be included. Keep in mind how accurate you've also stated those pieces of information. The third point is conciseness and clarity. So here we're looking at the extra pieces of information in the case notes, the information that shouldn't be mentioned when you address a specific recipient. So keeping the recipient in mind, what shouldn't be mentioned, and how well did you summarize the points that you've written. Also, how easy it is for them to understand what you've written is also really important. So conciseness and clarity means that you haven't mentioned any unnecessary points, and you've summarized the points that you've included. You've summarized them appropriately, and the meaning, of course, has to be clear while you're doing all of that. The next point is genre and style. So what that means is that you have to use the kind of language that you use in a formal setting. You have to be professional. You have to avoid, contractions. You have to avoid unnecessary abbreviations. Also, abbreviations that might not be understood by the recipient. So you have to think who's receiving the letter. Would they understand this abbreviation or not? And if they wouldn't understand that, then please don't use it. Finally, in the genre and style, you have to keep in mind that you're using factual language. That's actually very important. You're using factual language. That means whatever you're writing, don't include your personal opinion or anything that's subjective. So don't tell the recipient that your patient is actually a heavy smoker unless that's a medical term. Don't say he drinks too much unless that's a medical term. So here, it wouldn't really make sense to say he drinks too much uh, if you have the option to say he drinks this many units of alcohol. So if you mention the number of units of alcohol, that means it's a fact. But if you say too much or too little or just enough, it has your own evaluation in it. So it's unacceptable. It has your perspective as a person. It doesn't have the facts. So try to avoid personal opinions or personal evaluations and just stick to the facts. Um, of course, while maintaining a very professional and respectful kind of language, and it has to be polite as well. The next point is organization and layout. So organization and layout means that the person receiving the letter knows it's a letter just from the layout, from just taking a quick look without reading, they know it's a letter. Um, which means probably that you've got the address at the beginning, the signature at the end, the body in the middle, stuff like that. Then when they start reading, they have to find the proper sequence of the paragraphs. So the paragraphs are first of all divided into ideas. Each paragraph represents a very clear idea, and it's consistent. It doesn't, have other ideas mixed up with it, unless that makes sense. Um, in a way, you have to think that the paragraphs make it easy for the recipient to find any piece of information they want without having to read the whole letter. So once they take a look at the purpose at the beginning and they have a question, they should know where to look for the answer. So that means each paragraph should begin with the main idea. It should make the content of the paragraph very clear from the beginning, and it should include all the related ideas in one paragraph. You don't spread the ideas throughout the whole letter. Um, then the sequence of the paragraphs has to be logical, so it has to make sense. So there's no specific like sequence that you have to stick to. There's no specific kind of distribution of paragraphs that you have to stick to, but you do have to make it logical. So you have to keep the paragraphs maybe ordered chronologically. If you want, you could arrange them based on the main ideas that you find would be most helpful for the recipient. So you could start with the most recent visit in one paragraph, previous visits in another paragraph, medication or any other stuff like that in the third paragraph, the request in the last part. So you have to keep in mind that the sequence can actually help clarify what you're trying to do. It can help the person find the information they're trying to find a lot more smoothly. So try to work on that in your preparation period. Finally, you've got language. So what that means is you're using the right vocabulary, you're using the right grammar, and you're also using the right punctuation in a way that makes the meaning crystal clear. The person doesn't feel confused or like they don't really know what you're trying to say, or that you've miscommunicated something. So the proper use of all of that vocabulary, grammar, and punctuation will definitely help you. Now, the last thing I'd like to mention is the bands. So each one of these criteria has a band scoring system. So the purpose has three bands, 1, 2, and 3, as well as band 0 if you've done less than band 1. Now, these bands are actually really close. So that means that the slightest improvement in your writing could take you from one band to the next. You have the table right here. You can just pause the video and read it. But generally speaking, try to learn what the top band in each criterion looks like and try to aim for that. So that's all for now. Thank you so much for listening and best of luck to all of you.